So I heard there's some sort of safety fence coming. Who else to better use that than most likely the most popular male of Choose Your Legends number 5? The gatekeeper himself. Yep, this is no mere coincidence, folks. Let's find out what it means.
Let the lesson begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Fire Emblem Heroes video featuring myself, Akariss, your host and teach. Today's video is going to talk about the favorite time of my month in Fire Emblem Heroes, which is an update notification. Honestly, I love this part of the month because it means that there is usually something exciting coming up, and this update is definitely no slouch in that regard, especially if you play Aether Raids. But also because it's likely the CYL month, we're going to get a FEH channel, I'm sure, in a few days, and I'll likely cover that as well. And just a lot of interesting things to probably talk about here. I'd like to definitely see a new game mode, so hopefully FEH channel does bring that to some degree. Just for a moment, folks, if you enjoy this type of content and you want to keep see it coming, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. That really does go a long way. Love you for doing it. Alright, so let's jump into this. FEH Pass Loyalty perks, basically a summary. Ephemera's updated, Weapon Refinery, Aether Raids. Basically FEH Pass, I guess, is the main attraction, you could say, of this update. But there's definitely more to come, and I feel this is merely a teaser. So let's get started. I'm not going to touch too much on the FEH Pass stuff because honestly it doesn't really matter to me. I think most people are F2P, but probably don't think about this whole FEH Pass thing to an extensive degree, but I will cover it if in case you do. The FEH Pass is technically the best value you can get in Heroes, so if you do subscribe to it, it's actually the best bang for your buck. Now, I think the most important thing to realize is Summoner Support expansion and how important those extra rewards are. People, I believe, and again, you can correct me on this one, tended to like sub for 1 month and then get like 3 or 4 different Resplendent outfits or something like that, or pick up the rewards upon 3 different or 4 different times on the quest. I think this is IS's like action towards that. Sub for more than 1 month, please, or stop targeting just one specific character, your favorite. I don't think that's really going to change, and that whole thing probably is going to stay the same for people that ultimately just wanted costumes, because I think that's one of the most appealing things of FEH Pass. I mean, I take a look at the costumes and that appeals to me, and whether, you know, I would want it or not. The Summoner Support and FEH Pass Loyalty perks are interesting to say the least. What is definitely interesting here is you get a huge surplus of trait fruits. Now, trait fruits are definitely fed to us at a very, very slow pace, and you can't go around changing IVs on everything that you'd like to. I believe you only get to do it a couple times, 3, 4, maybe 5 times at most in a year, and whatever it is, but that's not that many times. So of course, if you get IVs screwed on like your one-off that really needs to, then it kind of sucks. For example, I had a Pirate to Barn, and he wasn't minus, I don't know if he was minus attack. I think he actually was minus attack, and I brought him to plus attack. And for a one-off, that's very important for someone like him who definitely wants to be plus attack. So this Trait Fruit Loyalty perk is probably one of the biggest benefits to it, and definitely if you're just trying to get everything you can out of it, then this is one way to look at it. Now, those of you who do Summoner Support juggle or farm it quite a bit, this will also be really good. I mean, walking into like an Aether Raids map with your whole team potentially Summoner supported is pretty good. I don't think it's necessary though, so I don't see many people picking up this whole loyalty thing to be all that important. That's really all I'm going to talk about that. Please let me know in the comments if you actually are going to like basically be indefinitely subscribed to FEH Pass. I'd love to see the numbers behind this. I don't know what to think of it. I don't really have much of a thought on it, to be honest. We're getting an Ephemera update here. This is probably one of the more disappointing selections we've had. I'm going to be totally honest here because I don't think we have much fodder this time. We have been getting a lot of like Rally Plus. I believe we got like a Ruse. We've even got our Dual Infantry 3. So there's been a pretty good set of Ephemeras lately, but this one's a pretty disappointing batch. Honestly, Wings of Mercy off of Merlinus is one of the best things I see here. A merge to Dancing Micaiah if you have her. I never did, so it doesn't really matter to me. Hubert's fodder is awful. And that's pretty much it, I guess. It's really what it is. This is definitely one of the more disappointing ones. And I guess Dancing Makai could see a return now due to the safety fence, which of course we'll talk about. But generally speaking, this is a pretty dull patch. There's not much to say here. All right, moving on, we got a weapon refine. Now keep in mind that this weapon refine batch is 1 month before the next CYL batch of weapon refines. We pretty much can expect that in the next set of weapon refines, we're going to get Camilla, Micaiah, and Elwood. And those, I suspect, will be very impactful. Along with CYL 5 units released this month, which of course always do at least garner a lot of discussion. I don't necessarily think they're all very meta impactful. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Brave Demetrius. Brave Edelgard was a pretty good one. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back into this. So not too many surprises here. I definitely expected like Bridal, Sanaki, and Finn to definitely get refines here. They were basically next in line for that. I think Maribel's was a bit overdue. I'm still very disappointed that we're not getting like healer refines in general to the 3-4 star units. They're like so forgotten at this point that I, who love investing into multiple healers, get screwed here. It's really pretty sad. And on top of that, I don't even get like the Forma option. I still have my Forma from Anniversary that I can't even use. I'm likely going to get the second one from Sparking by the time I can even invest into a healer at all from the Forma system for Odd Recovery, which it probably won't be as good as it used to be now that Safety Fence is in. Again, we'll talk about that once we get to it. I believe in the next slide. But anyways, here's the start of the book 2 refines with Leg Yarn. I mean, not like the start of book 2, but I mean like the story characters, more or less, or the villains, I guess. So Levitain is going to come, Hellbind is going to come, maybe even Surtur refine. That's going to be cool. So I wonder what they'll do with Niu, because that was already a pretty solid weapon. So it's going to get even better, I guess. Like that's where they start getting pretty good base effects on their weapons, and refining them probably is going to end up doing some pretty good damage. I do think that Dark Mistletoe is also something I'm going to keep my eyes on here, because again, that was already a pretty decent weapon. So let's see exactly what they do here. Some sort of like pre-charge acceleration at start of turn 1 would make that weapon outstanding. Kind of like Dark Excalibur, but also a special spiral effect. That would be really good. I don't work at IS. I don't know if that's going to happen, but for those of you that are Ares and Eldigan fans, it could very likely happen. So, the main event for many people who play Aether Raids, including myself. I'm just going to call it the meta fence, or anti-meta fence, because realistically, this definitely is going to change the game in a pretty crazy way in the next update. Now, if you don't really fully understand what this thing does, I don't blame you because the text isn't always very clear, but think of it as a certain way to just shut down turn 1 aggression. That's essentially what the building is there for. However, there's some things we have to talk about here regarding the safety fence, and I am going to likely go into more detail once we have it in the game, and I can kind of show you both the teams that are affected by it and how it exactly works once we have it in the game. I'm just going to mostly speculate here and think about exactly what the kind of implications of the game will be with the result of the safety fence. So think of this as a way to shut down turn 1 aggression. The enemy team will not move, will not engage, as long as you're within the boundaries of that safety fence. So it's going to have a 2 rows, 7 columns centered on the safety fence structure of safety spaces, and I'm sure that'll be visible. I hope that's visible somehow to the player, where the enemy team doesn't like recognize that and won't engage onto those spaces. They'll basically just end turn. That's very good because, again, for many people, you just couldn't really play into a lot of teams because they were turn 1 aggressing you if you didn't have exactly the right units to Gale Force, for example, or Vantage, or just Snipe, or just Tank with like saves or something. You were probably going to lose. And I think there's like Band-Aid to this was like 6 charges of Escape Ladder, but I think they wanted a more meta concrete solution, and that's what the meta fence is for. Now, definitely some huge implications for this thing. First of all, it will obviously make engagement onto the enemy team a bit easier. I don't want to say very easy, but it should make it a bit easier because you're going to have space to position your units exactly where you want them to be to engage onto the enemy on turn 2, where they obviously would engage and safety fence wouldn't do anything. So setting up for at least a single turn, because it can only be upgraded at 1 level, it is level 1, is going to help a lot for people to engage into those very high threat teams. The high threat team like archetype in general, I don't think is dead. I think a lot of people think that, like Kavline and Knots and Sigurd and all that is going to disappear. It's not. It's not. I'm not being punny. I mean it. Those teams aren't going to disappear just because safety fence exists. Those teams are definitely going to be hurt by the existence of safety fence, and they're going to allow more counterplay. I love meta shifts like this because it does mean we're likely going to see different defense archetypes, different ways to play offense. And another thing for offense that kind of gets more advantage here is hit and run. I'm fairly certain that, again, we don't know until this is in the game, but I'm fairly certain you could actually just like go hit and run, snipe a unit with like Regan or Legendary Leaf or something, and then just completely run back into the safety fence's net, and you potentially just sniped the unit on turn 1 and got back into your safety fence. So if that is possible, then obviously teams like Hit and Run got a huge buff. Now again, I don't know until we see it in the game, but those are all very strong speculations. What I do think definitely gets buffed on defense, though, as a result of this, is 2 different types of defense archetypes in one way or another. One is obviously save balls and save armors and just defense teams in general. Just very bulky teams are going to get better as a result of safety fence, because those teams didn't really care whether you engaged in turn 1, and if anything, if they're more stall or defense bulk based, and there's quite a lot of tools in the game now to do this between save skills and such, then those teams are just going to, they don't care about the safety fence. They're just going to stack bulk and win just by not dying. So I kind of like an oldish archetype, but I think it actually can work a bit better, and got overshadowed by the fact that just stuff like Nod and Legendary Sigurd just completely make those teams not even worth theory crafting in a lot of ways. But now I could definitely see it becoming more relevant. Another thing that I think is extremely buffed by this is I'm pretty sure safety fence is snipeable by Catapult and Duma, and because its restriction is 7 columns, this means that the structure will likely have to be placed within the center buildings, not on the outskirts, because if it's on the outskirts, then you won't have enough safety spaces to properly utilize it, or you won't get enough flexibility into a lot of teams you run into. So I suspect that a lot of safety fences would be more center-ish. That could, meta is always about adapting, right? So this could definitely not be the case. People could put it definitely in the corners and make it work like that. But essentially, if people put this in the center, like let's say 3 or 4, row 3 or 4, and then column 3 or 4, and then you have Duma and Catapult. That's going to be crazy, because you can basically roll the dice on defense and have both Duma, and it's important anima. Duma stonks up, guys. Literally, if you've been diamond hands on Duma since like day 1 of his release, that guy aged like the best defense mythic I've ever seen. I could never have accounted for something like Duma to end up being as good as he is. But the release of a building like this only makes him better. So you roll like Duma on lane 3 and then a Catapult on lane 4, and if most people put their safety fences on lane 3 and 4, then you could just keep running your oppressive turn 1 team and potentially snipe most safety fences. It could be worth trying to run that, because I don't think those defense archetypes are going to die. They're just going to definitely have to adapt, and Duma and Catapult is definitely one way to do that. Now, this does also impact odd recovery. Obviously, if you're protected on turn 1, then odd recovery doesn't get a lot of value, which means that even recovery gets a bit better, but also stuff like Sarah that doesn't care about turn count isn't truly affected either, and ultimately we could see this thing upgrading to even turn 2 or 3, maybe. Again, it says level 1 for now. It could potentially go up. Maybe it's kind of like a meta test for them. Either way, it's a very interesting thing. I do think that offense is it's a bit balanced right now. Like I don't know if I'd call it defense favored or offense favored. I'd say that if you're pretty good on offense, defense, like beating most defenses, won't be too difficult. But offense hasn't been as easy as it has been, let's say, the past year, with the introduction of a lot of stuff like Not, Cyros, Legendary Sigurd, Odd Recovery, Dual Sigurd. All these like releases definitely made defense a little bit more favored in the past 6 months or so. And this is definitely IS's free way of dealing with that onslaught, and hopefully not frustrating, its player base by giving them more tools to tackle those sort of things. Either way, this is going to have way more discussion that I'm going to be covering likely on Twitch, on Discord, on a future YouTube video once we very hard know how the mechanics are in, similar to how 7 slot wasn't fully clear except a text blurb until it was in the game. So I'm definitely going to cover this in the future again. That pretty much covers, say, the meta fence. And just some additional tidbits here is just, schools go up to 9. That's pretty good. I think that's like -9 or -10 stats now you're debuffing, which is kind of crazy. Strike, who cares? Resonant battles, again, who cares? Leone and Fernand are in the Grail shop. Yay for people that merging those. And that's pretty much it, folks. So that is August's update notif, but I do think we're going to have a Fed channel, which likely will cover CYL5, hopefully some sort of new game mode that isn't Ponzo Loki and actually is Fire Emblem. That's my wish. And with that being said, guys, I am going to get out of here. Thank you for watching. I hope that you've been enjoying my YouTube content as I bring it back. And if you do, again, thumbs up, it helps. Sub if you haven't. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the update. How does this affect your Aether Raids experience? And I will, do that. I'll see you in the next one. Check out Patreon and Instagram as well if you want to support the channel or see me be a real life person. Peace out, guys.
It's over.